Suicide affects all ages. It's the second leading cause of death for people ages 10 to 34, the fourth leading cause among people ages 35 to 34, and the fifth leading cause of death among people 45 to 54. High-profile suicides are sparking intense conversations and making the message of suicide prevention even more important. Joining us today is Patrice Schroeder, community relations professional for the 211 HelpLine. Patrice is going to share with us different ways to communicate and also the resources for connecting with someone who may need mental health support. So we're noticing now in the media and many of us in our personal lives that suicide rates are increasing at an alarming rate. Patrice, so what is your outlook on what's happening right now, obviously, with the very high profile suicide deaths that have been in the media lately?
Well, anybody, a lot of us are impacted by these deaths, but the thing that we have to remember is that suicide impacts all different people from all different walks of life and socioeconomic status. So just the fact that one person dying can impact over 160-something people is just something to keep in mind. So it's a rippling effect, and it's really important that people have the conversation and reach out for help. But it's about normalizing that conversation. How can we help each other to have that dialogue so that we can reach out for help and help individuals understand that there are resources and tools to help navigate the challenges and the struggles.
Patrice, in your experience, what would you say could be some of the factors that are contributing to this rise in the suicide rates?
Well, I think a lot of this is fallout from the economic crisis that we've had with this pandemic. I think the CDC actually did research, and they kind of focused on three waves. The first wave being that of the pandemic itself and the health crisis with that. The second wave was the economic crisis. And they knew with these things combined that there was going to be a third, much larger wave, which is the mental health crisis that we're experiencing now. So people are overwhelmed. People are, they want to go back to normal, but they've been impacted in many different ways. Some people have lost businesses, they've lost jobs, they've lost homes, and we're hearing about the exorbitant rent increases that are actually kind of a catalyst for some of the crisis calls we're getting right now. When you have somebody that has a rent increase of $800, or we're hearing common $500, $800, $1,000, you have a single mom who reached out to us and said, my rent's gone up by $800. I don't know what I'm going to do. And where can they go? So it's just the housing issue, it's the health issue, it's just the struggles and challenges that we're all experiencing. And just knowing that there's a place that they can call any time of day or night, even if they just want to talk. So 211 is there. We also respond to the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, the 1-800-273-TALK, 8255 number. So we are highly trained, and we're in your corner as a community at large. We're in your corner out there, and we want you to know that we're here for you any time of day or night.
And Patrice, this message that you're giving right now is, it's more crucial now than ever, especially with many of these cases being very high profile. And that is the strange commonality with suicide that I have found, is that no matter your socioeconomic background, no matter the demographic that you're from, no matter your financial status, there are people from all backgrounds that are experiencing these traumas, and many of them are resorting to suicide. So I am it's a difficult conversation to have. Okay, let me repeat that.
And I want us to bring hope to the situation.
Yeah.
And that I think one of the things that we've kind of not had, are connecting the dots, I should say, is just getting that mental health care home.
Yeah.
Mental health is just as important as physical health. So if you have a broken arm, you're certainly going to make your way to a doctor or a clinic. Well, if you are feeling overwhelmed and you just aren't making progress. You're not moving forward. You don't want to get out of bed. All these things are impacting you. You have high anxiety. It would be important for you to reach out and get the care. These professionals can provide you with tools to help you navigate your challenges and struggles. I would never tell somebody that everything's going to be better. It's all going to get better. Nothing is going to be there to harm you. It's just not, the reality is things may get worse, but you'll have tools to help make your way day by day. And helping to stay connected, building resiliency. How can we stay connected? How can we find a sense of purpose? How can we find joy in the simple things that actually feed and nourish us? And how can we give back? Because these very simple things, even volunteering, help nourish you. So it helps to improve mental health. And of course, the physical aspect is really important too. If you're not getting enough sleep, you're not getting healthy, nutritious foods, things like that, you're not getting outdoor time to decompress, these things impact your mental health as far as your actual brain health. And brain health, if your chemistry is off, can lead to depression and other mental health conditions. So just not getting the quality sleep is very impactful on your mental health as well. So looking at those things that can provide that sustaining sense of well-being, that serotonin. I was looking at the research comparing dopamine and serotonin, and, dopamine is getting that food in your mouth, those tasty treats, getting that reward from your video game, getting that hit from your scrolling through YouTube or Facebook or what have you. Those are all dopamine hits, but those aren't sustainable. So really looking at the things that bring that serotonin that help nourish you. So there's some research out there that I was reading that I found very interesting, because as we look around and we see so many people engaged with their devices, not really getting the things that actually nourish them physically, mentally, and emotionally.
For the long term, right?
For the long term,
yeah.
Yes.
That is fascinating. Something else that I was thinking about is, and I'm not the professional here, obviously, but my question is to you, we know that these resources exist. In some communities, yes, they may be difficult to find. They may be difficult to have access to. Even on a national level, we know that these resources exist. I feel as though maybe one of the challenges is overcoming the stigma and actually having the people to connect with these resources to a point where they say within themselves, I need help. I realize that I need help, and I need to seek that help without being ashamed, without feeling embarrassed, without feeling intimidated, just feeling comfortable enough to say, I know that something is wrong and I need to connect with these resources. Have you seen that with any of the clients that you've spoken with or any of the people that you've come in contact with, their hesitancy about reaching out for help?
Well, I would say that our actual suicide calls this year, I should say for 2021, for the year in total, were basically 3,800 for our 211 that services Palm Beach and the Treasure Coast counties, which that tells me that those numbers didn't go up. But I know the suicide rates in the county, from according to the medical examiner, had gone up by a percentage. I think it was 31% in Palm Beach County, 32% in the Treasure Coast counties. That means that we're not getting the calls, which speaks to your point. And it could be that people just don't know about the numbers, and that's why these programs are so important. Or it could mean that they're hesitant. Different cultures have different ways of relating to mental health. But we even have pastors and ministers that are realizing that, they can only do so much for their congregation. They understand that we really need to help people to understand that mental health and getting therapy is very important also. So there is a community-wide conversation taking place. And that really helps to normalize that, we all have mental health. Some days I'm way over on this side of the spectrum. Some days I'm way on this side of the spectrum. But if you're kind of on the low side, the lower spectrum, and you're just not feeling good, you're just not, able to get out of bed, you're not able to make your way, and it's just, you're changing your habits, you're not eating, sleeping, you're not taking care of yourself, these things can be signs of depression or even signs that you are suicidal. So my key takeaway here, too, is that we have to look out for each other. So if you have a family member, a coworker, a neighbor, and you just don't feel something's right. You feel that even though they may put a smile on their face, that there's just something going on. Trust your gut instinct. That person could be covering up their severe depression. They could be covering up that they're suicidal. And it is helpful for you to intercede for them. You can even call 211 just to learn about how do I help this person. So this is like for you, just to be able to call and help somebody else. Because you may save a life just by taking the action steps. When you identify that this person seems to be having a mental health crisis, they seem to be really depressed, they seem, something is happening, I'm going to make the call, or I'm going to, intercede on their behalf.
That is so important. I'm so happy you mentioned that, because many people, they don't have anyone else except the people in their immediate proximity or vicinity. And if those people are not supportive, or if those people are not resourceful or helpful in any way, then that could actually make the person more susceptible to greater depression or even suicide attempts. So I'm so happy that you mentioned that as well.
Right. And, with the isolation that we've been experiencing for these past couple of years, which has been very negative on the mental health and emotional health, we know that there's some people, like you're mentioning, whether it could be the LGBTQ youth that are kind of have been isolating with families that may not be accepting, other individuals. It's just a whole gamut of people that, if you're right, if they don't have a supportive person, at least I would really encourage them, they themselves, to reach out. They can also text message us to 898-211. They can go to our website and chat online. And we are also a part of the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline's Crisis Chat. So they can reach out to us those ways if they're more comfortable. So texting, chatting, if they, feel that they're in an environment where there isn't privacy, or, they don't want to be heard in their conversations, or whatever the case may be, those are other means to reach out and get help.
Patrice, before we let you get out of here, suicide itself is heartbreaking in and of itself. But lately I've been seeing that many of the victims are younger and younger also. Do you feel as though there's because I feel as though if there's a parent, and the parent may feel as though their child is experiencing mental health episodes, signs of depression, different things like that, or even an adult, we'll even use adults for an example, their friend or their husband or their wife is experiencing something that is different. Something is off. They're sadder. They're isolating more. What if they may feel as though, well, I'm not going to call 211 because I don't want to be wrong. I don't want to say this thing and then I'm wrong.
It's better to err on the side of caution, is what I say, because you can always say, I just cared about you so much that I just wasn't understanding what was happening with you, and I just wanted to make sure that I didn't lose you. It's important. You're going to make a mistake sometimes, but, this is an important mistake. If you didn't make that call, how would you feel after, if somebody did take their life? That's why when I do presentations to students in school, I would say, you don't want to be that child that had that information and carry that burden, knowing that you could have said something to somebody and you didn't, and then this person did end their lives. There's no right or wrong. It's just doing what you can to save a life. And you may, you can just laugh it off if you made a mistake, but then you may not have made a mistake.
Right.
And just leave the door open for the conversation. So even if we did maybe come across a little fast, but just say to that person, your behavior was changing. You just seemed so sad, and, things just seemed really down for you. I just wanted to make sure that you had support. And it's also important for people that have mental health conditions and anxiety and things like that. Let people know how they can support you. So that's even more tricky. Like, what is it that you really need? Do you need somebody to just be there if you need to make a quick phone call to them as a friend? Do you need somebody to just not say anything but just know that they're there and they're supporting you non-judgmentally? Unconditional, non-judgmental is one of the most important things when you're approaching people. that have mental health concerns or maybe even possible suicidal crisis, you don't ever want to say to somebody, hey, you're just going through a phase, or you'll get out of it, you'll snap out of it, it's just life, or something like that. Just take a nice nap, you'll feel better. That's not necessarily the answer that really will help them.
Yeah.
So it's just, how do we ask for support? How do we give support? And how do we just be visual? I'm really worried about this person. And there are people that are getting mental health care, but they may have a substance use disorder that may be compounding the situation. They're self-medicating, and that's even more complicated. We just really want to get them to professional care where they're actually going to get tools that will help them succeed.
I also feel like there's a certain look that people expect for people that may be depressed or suicidal to look like. They don't think the Miss USA or the star athlete or the family member could be having those thoughts because they are on Instagram and they're on social media and they're returning all of their emails and they're smiling, not knowing that those signs could still be visible, but they could still be enduring some really deep, harsh internal trauma. So it doesn't look like what we think it looks like all the time, Right.
Yeah. And even with some of the past celebrity deaths, Robin Williams was very impactful. That man had a following from all age groups, and he knew how to put on a happy face, but underneath he was in pain and struggling. So it is really important to understand that people have had a lot of different experiences in their backgrounds. Yeah. They may have had crisis or trauma as children. We know that ACEs, adverse childhood events, really impact people. So these accumulative factors, it's like a whole train behind somebody. You have no idea what they've experienced. So we can't judge, and they may have the fur coat, they may have the expensive car, the lovely house, or what have you, but they're struggling with their own traumas and their own emotions and anxiety and fear. So we just can't make those judgments or those, put those conditions on things. And it's the whole spectrum. We're all struggling, and even if you're doing great, just the fact that people around you are having a really tough time, that's impacting your mental health too.
Absolutely.
So it's a collective community response also. So, and, it's been hard times right now and heartbreaking times. So how can we move past that and find joy in the small, simple things, looking at the flower, hearing the birds sing, having a lovely conversation with your neighbor, just finding joy in little things that add up.
So important. And with that, I just say, eat the chips. I'm always like, no, I don't want to eat the chips because I don't want to have a piece of cake. No, if the cake makes you happy, eat the cake.
Moderation in all things. And you just have to be careful because, sometimes we eat our emotions.
Yeah.
So instead, maybe have a chip or two, but then follow it up with something like really healthy.
Right. There you go.
I'm all about comfort food too. I think that's kind of been a problem we've had during COVID is the comfort food as well. So it's about finding balance. So finding balance is not, depriving yourself, but it's finding the balance in your food and your activities. So take a break, turn your screens off. I think if people just took a fast of their media devices for like a week, they'd be really surprised at how their mood changes too. So I think just some simple things that can help, would be benefit to all of us. But it's, again, we're a society that's out of balance, and these are the things that we see now because we've been so out of balance. So let's work towards creating things that are helpful and strategies that we can use daily to help keep our moods up. Even though, we're not in denial, we know things are happening around us, but in reality, let's just try to do what we can to uplift ourselves and the people around us. Sometimes that's all you can do is work on yourself. But we're here to help each other. And I think just taking care of our neighbor, love thy neighbor, so to speak, that also means being vigilant. And if you think somebody's in distress and if you get a sense and you feel it, act upon it. There's also mental health first aid classes. You can just Google that online. There are different organizations that are doing those that help people to be able to identify somebody in a crisis. But I just feel that you kind of can sense it. I think people are more in tune than they think. And, when you see somebody sitting there, with eyes cast down, and you just feel it, you can feel that they're just really in a despondent mood, So trust your gut instinct when it comes to your family, friends, and sometimes strangers. You can sense that something's not right.
I love that. And no matter where you reach out, what resource you use, these calls, these messages are always mostly free, confidential, and available 24/7. So, Patrice, tell us where we can go to find out more information, how we can reach out and get the help that we may need.
So anywhere, pretty much in the United States, you can always dial 211. We also answer the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. So either you can simply dial the 211 number, or you can dial the 1-800-273-TALK number, and that's 8255, so 273-8255. Just reach out anytime you want to, any time of day or night, even if you just want to talk. And those entities, we can help you find other resources in the community close to you. So we're all about helping connect people within their zip code and areas, where they can actually access it. So it's really important. But I just want to make a note, too. We know that some populations have a harder time finding services. But it's important that as a community, we bring services into our communities. So if we're in a community that is really deficient, let's start the conversation to get that resource into that community. So, but in the meantime, there are a lot of, I should say, mental health practitioners that are doing virtual. I think they're still doing telehealth, and a lot of insurance companies do have telehealth. So don't discount telehealth. You might be able to get your therapy and your sessions and your care right in your own home through telehealth. So I think there are probably some very reasonable options out there, depending on what the individual has insurance-wise, or even if they don't have insurance, there may be some free offerings out there.
Yeah.
It's okay to shop around, too, because if you are dealing with a therapist that just isn't the right fit for you, you can shop around and find somebody that is really makes you feel comfortable. You want to be comfortable when you're getting your treatment and everything and your care. So it's okay to research and shop around a little bit and ask a few questions. And, you want to make a home for, if you're struggling, you want to have a mental health home, and you want it to be a good place for you where you feel safe and you want to, get the care that you need.
Oh my God, Patrice, you are amazing. Everything you're saying, I'm soaking it all in. And I'm glad you brought up the telehealth information as well, because that is how I communicate with my therapist, via telehealth. And some people may think, oh, it's not the same as sitting in front of someone. It's not. But listen, I mean, and let me just say, I have an amazing therapist. I absolutely love her, both inside and outside of the office. So that matters. That means something, So I also love the fact that you mentioned you have to be comfortable with these people. You have to feel it. You have to have that connection. And it may be challenging for many people to shop around and find that connection. But once you find it, it's so important and healthy.
Yes, it is important. There's no sense in going someplace where you're not comfortable and you're not able to open up, because you have to have a trusting relationship. So it's building that relationship with somebody that you feel comfortable with. And, but it's we are moving forward bit by bit, foot by foot, inch by inch. And I want people to just keep hope and understand that there are resources out there, and it just is that you don't know about them, and 211 can help you learn about them. So that's what we're all about. And there may be other resources that could help the situation. Finding food pantries or free clinics or things of that nature may free up income for other bills and payments. So sometimes it's creative problem solving. Sometimes it's finding a resource if you didn't know there were some senior services for your aging parent, your caregiver. We have Caregiver Support Project at My 211 Palm Beach Treasure Coast. We also have Sunshine Calls. So for those residents that are living in Western Palm Beach County and your listenership, I should say, there is a Sunshine program where we call elders. And what a great way to help them stay connected and feel that somebody's in their corner looking after them. So we have those programs, and some of the other 211s in the state have that as well. So I would reach out and ask for that, So there may be things that can benefit you and your family that you just don't know about. There's My Florida Vet for military and their families is a state of 211 state of Florida program that 211s are implementing. So our 211 has the My Florida Vet program. We have to veterans themselves that can do peer-to-peer to support the veteran and also find resources for their families. And families that have concerns about children's growth and development or behavioral health concerns, we have our Help Me Grow staff that can do those screenings right over the phone. So catching those developmental delays early, also, helping those children with their behavioral health needs is so important because we really want to get to the crux of the mental health crisis that we are seeing, and a lot of that starts with early intervention. So even getting children off on the right track with mental and emotional health is important too. So it's all good, and we're also have a special needs helpline where families with children with disabilities can get that supportive case management as well to help them get services and resources. So not all 211s have the same programming, so you just have to call your local 211 or research them online to find out what they offer. But I also wanted to mention with telehealth, sometimes a situation in the household may not be conducive. It may be better for them to see someone in person if it's a really small house, small house with a large household, so to speak, and there isn't a way for them to have their private conversations. Okay. Sometimes we have to do creatively, maybe do in office or find another way of getting around that as well. And also if there's somebody experiencing domestic violence, it may have to be very private and very quiet to keep that person safe also. So, getting them some other services as well. So there's other factors, but it's just, once you make that call, people can help build a solution and help you move forward with your mental health. And we all have mental health. We have, any given day, we're on any part of the spectrum. So we're all in this together.
Absolutely. I love that. And that's why conversations like this are so important. Patrice Schroeder, thank you so much. This conversation, I'm sure, has helped out so many of our listeners and so many people that really, really needed to hear this today. I appreciate you coming on.
Well, 211 actually celebrates 211 awareness for the month of February. So just getting the word out, share it with a neighbor, friend, your church. If they can put a little bulletin, letting the congregants know that 211 is available. So that's a great thing, too, and going to Facebook for 211 also is helpful.
All right, Patrice, thank you so much. We appreciate having you on today.
Thank you for having me, and good mental health to everybody.
If you or someone you know is having a mental health crisis or thoughts of suicide, dial 211. And if requested, a mobile crisis team can come to you to provide care and support. We know this can be a difficult conversation to have, but it could be the difference between life and death. Thank you all for listening to another edition of Big Lake Now. I've been your host, Nicole Reed. Stay tuned for more Pure Country. You're listening to WAFC.